hurting everything. He's hurting Virginians, he's hurting African Americans, he's hurting the Democratic Party. I don't think there's any more damage he can do now, just since, last Friday. It's all done, but he definitely needs to go. The fact that he's dug his heels in and says, no, I'm not, and what do I have to do to move forward and gain your trust? Well, get out. Is step number one. The whole thing was a surprising sort of hot mess. I'll tell my age, I was 13 in 1984. That was not cool. That was not cool. And today, the denials, the retraction, the backpedaling, the excuse making, not cool. The whole thing has been one big giant surprise, nightmarish thing after another.
That was April Brown, who told CBS News she once canvassed for Virginia Democratic Governor Ralph Northam. Now she's part of a growing chorus asking him to step down. Governor Northam is refusing to resign after a photo from his 1984 medical school yearbook showed one man in blackface and another in a Ku Klux Klan costume. Northam originally admitted to posing for the photo, but then backtracked and said he is not in the picture. He did, however, admit to darkening his face for a dance contest where he dressed up as Michael Jackson. CBS News political correspondent Ed O'Keefe got reaction from the Speaker of the Virginia House of Delegates.
What, if anything, could you and your colleagues do at this point to force him out if he refuses to go?
I think there's a rightful hesitation about removal from office, because obviously you have to consider that to some degree you're overturning an election. I think the constitutional provisions are very specific on the succession of office. It really does call for mental or physical incapacitation. I think that's what it was meant to do. I think Dick Howard has said that. And obviously on impeachment, that's a very high standard. And so I think that's why we have called for the resignation. We hope that's what the governor does.
For more, Ed O'Keefe joins us now from Richmond, Virginia. So, Ed, does Governor Northam think he can survive this?
Well, we'll see, Elaine. He has insisted since Saturday that he would try to regain the trust and the forgiveness of Virginians and his colleagues in state government. But if Monday is any indication, his colleagues in the State General Assembly and people who've gathered here on Capitol Hill in Richmond definitely want him out. And the clarion call for him to go extends far beyond Virginia, of course, across the country. 2020 presidential candidates, House Speaker Pelosi, Hillary Clinton, other leaders, including the Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, all saying that Northam has to get out for the good of the party, and because this kind of behavior, whether it really is him or for whatever reason it ended up on his page, in this era at least, is inexcusable.
Well, on Saturday, you had an exchange with the governor that got a lot of attention. You asked if he can still moonwalk. Let's listen to that.
It was a dance contest. I had always liked Michael Jackson. I actually won the contest because I had learned how to do the moonwalk.
You said that the competition in San Antonio was a dance competition?
Yes.
And it was that you danced the moonwalk?
That's right.
Are you still able to moonwalk?
Inappropriate circumstances.
My wife says inappropriate circumstances.
I mean, Ed, what does that exchange tell us about how seriously Governor Northam is taking this?
Sure, and some context, first of all, that was about a 40-minute news conference where he took dozens of questions. I had a chance to ask him 4 different questions about when he thought he'd be able to determine he was no longer effective, whether or not he'd ever sought out these kinds of yearbooks and other material as he was running to sort of do some self-opposition research. The final question I asked him was about moonwalking, and the reason was because he kept bringing it up. He referenced it at the first, explaining that this had happened in 1984, and he referred back to it, and reporters there huddled in front of him kind of kept looking at each other saying like, well, maybe somebody should ask him. And so I did, in part to elicit a response and just see what the response would be. I think in hindsight, many people look at that and go, any other political figure might say that's an inappropriate question, or I'm not here to answer that. You saw there, he was looking for a spot to actually do it. And if not for his wife, he might have. So yeah, I got a lot of attention, but it was designed to elicit a response and try to gauge his sense of place and his mindset at the time. And I think the answer proves why exactly there are a lot of people here in Richmond who are concerned about how long he'll hang on.
It was illuminating to see his reaction to your question. Well, as you said, members of Governor Northam's own party called for him to step down. So how damaging has this been for Democrats?
They are very concerned, in part because there are state legislative elections later this year. And as somebody said to me last night, you know, you find me a Democrat who's going to want to campaign with him or be seen in a photo with him. Find CEOs in this country who might want to be doing business who are even going to want to take a meeting with him. They are very concerned that this could have long-lasting damage not only on the Democratic Party, but on the state overall. Remember, the state legislature right now is in the midst of a 3-week legislative session where they're considering all sorts of issues, including some of the final work that needs to be done to formalize the agreement with Amazon to move tens of thousands of workers into Northern Virginia. And this is a sensitive year in the history of the Commonwealth of Virginia. This August marks the 400th anniversary since slaves first arrived at Jamestown. And we talked with one senior Democratic lawmaker about that last night, and I kind of suggested, could you imagine if he's still governor at that point? And she said, absolutely not. There's no way we could have somebody like him now, in light of this, leading the state at a time like that.
So if Governor Northam resigns, Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax will take his place. But now it appears that Justin Fairfax is facing some controversy. He's denying a report by a conservative website that suggests he sexually assaulted a woman in 2004. Ed, what's going on here?
What's going on is if you ask the Lieutenant Governor, dirty tricks. This is something that he says was reported out by the Washington Post over the course of 3 months in late 2017 into 2018, after he won election statewide and before he was inaugurated. According to his camp, they spent, again, about 3 months in consultation with the Washington Post. His attorney was involved. They met with senior editors and basically laid out, as he told us earlier today, that yes, there was a consensual one-night stand, his words, with this woman when they were at the 2004 Democratic National Convention in Boston. He was a campaign staffer for John Kerry's presidential campaign at the time. They met. They had their, they had one-night stand, and that was it. He says that she attempted to contact him later by email later that year. They did not meet, and he tells us that they have not met or talked since. And part of what they had to do with the Post is sort of point out and attempt to discredit this woman's accusations. We have not heard from her. CBS News has attempted to contact her today or some of her friends, and we haven't heard back. So we have no way of corroborating it other than what the Lieutenant Governor insists. And he raises a valid point that this was something that was investigated by another national news outlet, which in Virginia is also a local news outlet. They did not report out the story because they could not find enough corroborating evidence. And he said, how suspicious is it that suddenly now, when he may be on the verge of becoming governor, he suddenly is being asked again about those unfounded accusations.
All right. Meantime, Governor Northam continues to remain in office. Ed O'Keefe reporting from Richmond for us. Ed, thank you.
Take care.